Before we had a nation, we had an army. An army of ordinary people. Farmers, merchants, carpenters, blacksmiths. Ordinary people with extraordinary courage, joined by the bonds of patriotism, who believed in something greater than themselves and were willing to fight to protect it. And when the dream of a nation became reality, the U.S. Army was there to uphold the freedoms they defended as warriors, as professionals, ensuring our democracy of the people, by the people, for the people, would endure. For 250 years, the men and women of the U.S. Army have bravely defended this nation, from Yorktown to Gettysburg, from the trenches to the beaches, from Vietnam's jungles to Fallujah's dust and fire, never leaving a comrade behind. They fought against tyranny, fought against chaos, against anyone who threatens our way of life. But the Army's done more than fight. They've helped connect our coasts, laying railroads, paving highways, bridging rivers, raised cities from dust, rebuilt after disasters, and lifted communities in their darkest hours. 250 years of selfless service, defending, building, leading. And with the help of the Association of the U.S. Army, they're just getting started. For 75 years, AUSA has been the Army behind the Army, the voice for the Army, and support for the soldier. Building stronger communities across the nation and in our neighborhoods. Through AUSA's mission to educate, inform, and connect. AUSA knows people are not in the Army, they are the Army. Ensuring that every soldier, every veteran, every member of every Army family has a champion. You don't have to wear a uniform to make a difference in the Army community. You just have to care. Care about honor. Care about service. Because we owe them more than just gratitude. The next 250 years start now. Stand with us in standing for them. Stronger soldiers, stronger America. Let's fight, let's build together. We support soldiers, past, present, and future.
The Association of the United States Army is pleased to welcome you to AUSA's Noon Report webinar series. This webinar series features presentations by senior Army leaders responsible for key programs and initiatives. It also features contemporary military authors who weave together the past, present, and future story of the United States Army. Kicking off today's webinar is Mr. Marshall Williams, an AUSA Senior Fellow.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Association of the United States Army's Noon Report. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We appreciate your support as partners in the defense of our nation. Today's webinar is brought to you by our 3-star sponsors, Ethos, the first AI-powered human readiness platform for mission-critical success. Joining us today is Lieutenant General Brian Eifler, Deputy Chief of Staff, G-1. Please take advantage of having Lieutenant General Eifler here to ask questions. You can use the question and answer tab on the right side of your screen to submit any questions. After a discussion, we will take as many questions as possible. You can find the full bio of Lieutenant General Eifler in the handout tab. Lieutenant General Brian Eifler is the Headquarters Department of the Army Deputy Chief of Staff, G-1. He previously served as the Commanding General of the 11th Airborne Division, Army Chief Legislative Liaison, and Deputy Commanding General of the 10th Mountain Division Light. He had served in various commands and leadership positions with deployments in support of Operation Uphold Democracy, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and Operation Inherent Resolve. He holds a bachelor's degree in interpersonal and public communication from Central Michigan University and an MSS from the United States Army War College. I am absolutely ecstatic. This is one of my favorite folks in the United States Army. It's a pleasure to see you as G-1. Thank you so much for being here. I have 1,000 questions for you, but I really want you to have a moment to tell us what you want to tell us about the G-1.
Well, first I got to say, like, before the cameras are rolling, we're like two kids in a playhouse here, because we used to work together many years ago on the staff, infantry folks, and then he ended up working in MRA. I end up working as the G-1. Here we are, and now we're doing interviews live. So it's really good to see you, and good to see your leadership journey is continuing on. But there's a lot of change. Transformation is constant. As one of our 4 pillars in the Army, as the Chief likes to say, and with the advent of the Army Transformation Initiative, it's continuing that. And so everything that we do affects personnel. Everything. We do is connected. So whether our structure changes, how we do and place people in formations, how we develop talent, what are the paths for a branch or for an enlisted soldier in their MOS to make sure we're on the cutting edge of technology and on the battlefield. So all of that is, and we don't have a lot of time, because we don't know when that next war is. And arguably we're sort of in some non-shooting wars right now with some of our adversaries, but we can't wait and sit and be complacent. We have to continue to learn, to grow, to adapt, and think about how to get better, no matter where we are, no matter what level we are. We have to look at things differently to make sure we're prepared for the next level of combat.
You are the right person at the right time for the right job. So thank you for that. As everyone knows, we just completed our 250th birthday. So I want to ask, how is the modernization of personnel management being aligned with the broader Army 2030 and Army 2040 visions?
Yeah, and much like we discussed, like, first of all, 250 years is amazing. If anybody was out there, the crowds were, I don't know, it was amazing. 250, 300,000. The people showed up. You know, I don't like crowds, but that did not stymie anybody from coming. They lined up and were coming in. So that's what I was really impressed with. But as we went through the history, through the parade, as you saw from the Revolutionary War all the way through modern times, in all our units out there, you really got the sense of like, hey, we're very proud, but as Ralph Puckett said, you never be satisfied. You always have to keep going. And I think that's what's important when we talk about 2030, 2040, or 2026. We can't wait another year. We have to be more adaptive. We have to be faster.
Cool.
Our acquisition process is a little too slow. Our budgetary cycle is too slow. We need to make changes in weeks and days. And so with some of the things that our Secretary and Chief are trying to do with flexible funding and things like that, to be able to have money from Congress that we can say, hey, we're buying this type of thing, not this system. So we can go from that system to a better system, like a better, communications piece or better software and things like that. So being able to adapt and adjust rather than getting stuck in having something that's there for 10, 15 years. We've got to be able to adapt. And that's the same thing with the personnel. We have to have systems that are streamlined and free up time for the soldier to not, spend doing administration and do more time doing training and preparing for the fight.
Amen. Speaking of the 250th birthday, I understand you and your smoke, you and your sergeant major did something for C-SPAN. Tell us about that. Yeah,
we did. We got asked to do the color commentating for the parade on C-SPAN on Saturday nights. So we had a great time. I don't think they were prepared for the vibrant guests that we were. for that, but we had a great time and really telling the Army story as the parade went by to the American people, which, once in a lifetime thing to see. And, we might not be around for the 300th, but we wanted to do it justice. I think we did some good color commentating for C-SPAN.
Oh, I bet you did.
Yeah,
I know you. So, I bet. I haven't seen it, but I will see it today. I will see it today. The next question, excuse me. In what ways is the Army leveraging artificial intelligence and data analytics to forecast, develop, and retain high potential talent across the total force?
Yeah, that's a great question. If we're not using it, we're going to be in trouble because we need it. And that's we're not going to be creating, robots that take over the world. Well, we're creating some of these things in AI so that, if you're familiar, going to, let's say, promotion boards that would take weeks on end and a lot of hours, hundreds of hours, and a lot of leaders' resources, time, and effort to spend away from their primary job to do these boards. But AI could come in and at least narrow it down to the files that really need to be looked at, and then shorten that time. So imagine doing that in a day or two. With making the decisions is always made by people, but you have a ton of files that you connect. We can do that with machine learning. We do some of that with the command assessment program right now for the invites to it. We neck down from thousands down to like, hey, here's the right people. And if we tell it what it needs to be looking for, it's garbage in, garbage out. But if you think about it, if you're on a board for 7 days or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever, your mental acuity starts to change. Well, not with AI. It can be very consistent. It won't get tired. It won't get, jaded or have an attitude, which can happen with people. So if you could eliminate that part and bring you in when you need to make those decisions, that's what we need to do. That's just an example of how we're doing it. Same with the personnel systems. If you can, we're looking at a chat GPT where imagine if you don't have to look up any file. You can just ask and say, hey, what's the standard on this? And it's linked to all of our regulations and policies. And you go to one place to get all your answers, whether it's a PCS, whether it's you're going to, EFMP or something. We still do call centers. So imagine if we could have all that resource into one place. We have that capability. We've got to put it in place. And
we were talking earlier that you said that we're already using this in recruiting.
Yeah, and I think we're just tapping into that. And I know General Davis out there has done a phenomenal job with him and his recruiters, revolutionizing how we recruit, where we recruit, how we develop recruiters, but using some of that AI to narrow down, the field instead of knocking on doors. Where should we go? Where haven't we gone? Where we could and then all the systems that they fill. They went from, they brought it down. They had 200 forms for every recruit. 200 forms. Like, what are we doing? And so he's down to 9, and he's going to go down further. But that's just like, again, not waiting and say, hey, this is the way we've always done it. And hey, we just need to do this form because this is the way we got to do it. We're changing it. And if there's a policy that says that we have to do that form, we're changing the policy.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of things that he's doing in recruiting as well.
I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
We take it for granted because we've worked at some levels that we take it for granted, but not everyone knows, what does the G-1 do?
Yeah. And I didn't know either until about 8 months ago. So the G-1 is very, we were teasing each other before this, is like, what does the G-1 do? What does the G-1 not do might be easier, because we're involved in everything. Anytime we're talking about the Army, as Creighton Abrams said, the Army is people, and people is the Army. And so everything we do in the Army affects people. And as we were talking, when we're going to make this big change, we're going to change a formation and we're going to move it to here. And, so my job is like, hey, remember, let's try to give the field 18 months so we can adjust the moving, the PCSing, the slotting, the structure, and making sure, so we can't just turn on a dime. Yeah. And so making sure that we do this correct staff work and anticipate the manning, and the requirements today, but also in the future. Johnny Davis is doing a great job with the recruiting. They've overachieved, right? And so they're bringing more people in. Well, that requires more seats and training. So, General Brito, he's got to, in TRADOC, he's got to have more seats Does he have more seats available? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. So if he needs more seats, he needs more instructors. So who's going to be the instructors?
That's right.
We got to bring in more instructors. Okay, then if we don't have any more on active duty, we pull them from the reserve. So this is like everything affects the other thing. So if you just think, in your little lane, you will miss out on all the second and third order effects that you have to do. Okay, what about equipment? Do we have enough equipment for this influx of basic training? So all of this we have to think through. It's not just, and so personnel is involved in every one of those steps,
single thing.
and we have to make sure we manage it well. And then at the other time, there's a real life person, as we were talking. Like, so we're not going to say, hey, you're a recruiter. Now we're, a month later, no, we're going to send you to go be a drill sergeant or something like that. We've got to, hey, there's people, there's family, and we want to save and we want to retain, the soldier and their family in the military. So we got to be careful how we treat them. And so that's what we try to do on a daily basis. The interface really is with HRC, Human Resources Command, with the units, making sure that if Private Williams, Corporal Williams, Major Williams wants to stay in the Army, one, we find a way to help them do that, and then find a way to get the resources they need to get in the promotion, get the positions they need to go, because life happens, right? Along the way, people have kids, people have, EFMP issues. We work with everybody. So my big message to everybody is we'll find a way to keep you in the Army as best as we can. We'll work with you. We got to know about it, but and so with that, we need to develop a modern system that allows for that flexibility without going too far overboard. Yeah.
One of the things we talked about, excuse me, before coming on air was you didn't realize the civilian component that you had, which is very important to our Army. Talk a little about that.
Very enlightening. We have over 250,000 Army civilians that are hard at work every day. Doing a lot of things, and then we also have the expeditionary civilian workforce that go over and do those things that the soldiers don't have to do, and they receive sort of RSOI type things. They're doing it in Europe, they're doing it in Poland, they do it around the world, and those are people that have to do those jobs, and we need to do their job. So it's really important that we have that. And then, like I said, as you said, I didn't know when I coming in, like, oh, I'm responsible for the CHARA organization and the civilian hiring and all that. So we really have a whole nother avenue to focus on when we talk about the civilian workforce, because they have different systems, different hiring, different promotions, different training, development, and it's the pay scales, all for the most part all outdated. And so I've got a great partner in this, one of our directors, Miss Karen Payne, and she's heading it up, and we're going to change this, and we're going to, we need some OSD help, but they know it. They know we all need to change how we do this in the civilian world and modernize it, how to do this better. We're going to do that. And so that's another big rock that we're trying to do, hiring people, selecting people, and training them, developing them over a career. And the hiring process, as you know, is very antiquated, and it's got to change.
It's got to.
It's got to change.
It's got to. We lose a lot of great talent.
Yeah,
because time to hire takes
we can't be satisfied with where we're at. So we're going to need, it'll be all the government help with that, but it's something that we're going to try to at least change what we can change at our level. There's some things that we can do, but also push for our higher ups to make the changes, because they're looking for this too.
And, sometimes we forget scale. We forget how big we are.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of moving parts.
It is. There's a lot of moving parts, and the further you go in the military, you see how much civilians are part of what we do, and an essential part of the mission. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you one of the questions. The question is about talent management, since we're on that.
Yeah.
It is, how is the Army's approach to talent management evolving to support a more agile, skill-based force, particularly in particularly in light of dynamic geopolitical threats and hybrid warfare?
Yeah, that's
where we are right now.
Just an easy question.
It's an easy question.
Yeah, so there's a, we've had these traditional branches in the Army, traditional MOSs, and we can't just be satisfied like what we're doing with electronic warfare, what we're doing with cyber. what we're doing with software engineers, what we're doing with robotics and artificial intelligence. Those all have to be brought into this because we need all of that. We're going to use all that stuff. So we're developing, and we've already, we just did the space, the 40 Delta MOS as an example, and we have to think differently. We can't just like, oh, okay, well, all I do is do this. No, not only do you do this, but you have to build this, you have to repair this, and instead of just doing one thing, because that's where we're going to be. We got to fix things at the point of need. We've got to adapt at the point of need. If we're not building MOSs and technical experts along the way, we're going to be left behind. So some of our leaders, leadership is immutable. You need that throughout. You're always going to need leadership. I think that's always a factor in everything. But there's some different skill sets that we need to look at. In an infantry squad, what do they need to do? Is it more than machine guns? Is there some electronic warfare stuff that they got to be adaptable with communications? Is there some UAS and counter? Of course, so all of this stuff is happening at that squad level. So how do we build and do a structure for all that stuff, and how we manage? So how we train them, how we promote, and the path that we put them in, all it has to be adjusted for what we're doing. And that's what we're working on.
And set the speed of light, all of it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about readiness through the human domain. I love that word, right?
Yes.
We often talk about readiness in terms of equipment and training. How is the Army prioritizing human readiness, both the mental, emotional, spiritual, and aligning it with performance optimization across the life cycle of a soldier's service career?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we talked about. We've got to have options, along people's career. Early on, you might love to PCS and go to different units. Like your son, we were talking about, like, I get to go here, now I'm going over here. I was the same way. I get to do this, and then you start having kids, and then that's sort of slows down, and then you sort of trying to help the family better, and then you got teenagers, and that's a whole nother world, right? And you're like, okay, how do I lessen the stress? So how do we adapt to that? And then, quite honestly, we have this summer move cycle. We all want to move in the summer because of that, and so that's difficult. And again, with all our commitments, so I think some of what we've got to do is just look differently at how we do this, and come up with better solutions to adapt to what's like happening in our force. How do we keep people to stay in the force longer? How do we keep them interested? We're doing some things, especially on the officer side, early on in their career. So we had the VTIP, the voluntary transfer to branches. So now we're moving that to the left of before they get out of the Army. Imagine that. That makes sense. Say, hey, if you want to transfer to these other branches that have under-assessed, you can do that. And then you just go to the CCC, just like that. No harm, no foul.
And it fits the needs of the Army.
Yeah, and exactly. And so we've got to balance the needs of the individual with the needs of the Army. And I think the marketplace does that a little bit, but we also have to say, hey, that what's right for you, Will, is to go here. I know you want to go here, but we need you here, and here's why it's going to be a benefit to you. And
can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think sometimes that's missed in the messaging.
Yeah, I think we need to, remember what, we're in this Army, it's selfless. So we joined, put ourselves second, and we put our nation first. And we like to, be transparent and understand what the Army has for us. But on the same token, we also, we have needs, we have wants and desires, but they can't all be met. And so I think what's great about our profession is not everybody gets what they want. And if you join that, thinking that, then you join the wrong profession, because we already joined by saying, send me, right? I will do the hard stuff. I will sacrifice, and I will do that. We want to be fair in all that stuff. Someone has to go to do the hard things. Some people say, well, I'll just do the easy things. We're looking for the people that, are going to do the hard things. And we have to have a system that develops and promotes those that are doing those hard things. So that's the transparency on that. If everybody, gets promoted that's doing the easy thing, we're not sending a good message. So we've got to, adjust to make sure people coming in that are doing those hard things, that are doing it for the right reasons, are rewarded for it.
Such a great way to say that.
Yeah.
Such a great way. Let's talk a little bit about leader development in the digital disrupt world. With rapid advances in technology and warfighting, how is the Army adapting leader development to ensure our junior leaders are both technically fluent and operationally adaptive?
Yeah, I think again, leadership is immutable. How we do it in the Army is not common across the world. Our NCO Corps is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Is often imitated but not replicated. And that's, I think still it's hard to put into a machine talent management or leader development. This is a you, me thing, and it's an investment. I think John Maxwell talks about, adding value to your subordinates, not them adding value to you. You add value to them. You have responsibility to give them the resources and tools so that they could get better. And if you're doing that as a leader, you're going to make your organization better. So that's that servant leadership that we want to have. If we model that and we exemplify that, we're going to develop people. We're going to, get them better, and they're going to raise the rising tide, raise all boats, so to speak, for the formation and for the unit. I've seen that time and time again. Morale is a critical factor.
Always.
That's like another thing you have to look at. And if we're doing all the right things, but we can't forget, like, hey, we got to help people feel good about themselves, that they're doing their best and they're getting the resources they need to do their job. And when we're not doing that, we're failing as leaders, and that's where we got to help our leaders have the right resources to make sure that their subordinates are getting the opportunity to do their best.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about ethical stewardship of AI and data, right? Because you're involved in everything, everything, right? As the Army integrates AI into HR decision-making, how are you ensuring ethical use of data, protection of privacy, and the avoidance of the algorithms, biases, and personal action?
Well, one, you got to have you got to bring in experts. And that's where we do have some direct commissioning programs that bring in some of the experts. And then we also have our pipeline, the AI to C pipeline that we bring in to train people, data scientists, artificial intelligence, machine learning, so that we're doing it the right way for the right purpose. Like when we're putting some of these tests and pilots in place, what we're trying to do is this going to help the soldier? Question number one. Is this going to help the soldier? And if it doesn't pass that test, then we're stopped right there. And then if it helps the soldier, and it also does it make it easier for let's say the HR professional to execute, or for a board to execute? Are we make it easier? Are we eliminating steps? We don't just take those 900 or 200 forms that recruiters are doing and just put it in a computer and say, hey, look, we're digitized. It's great. Right. No, we need to eliminate. And so I think that's what we're trying to do. And then again, there's always a person in the decision. So at the important decisions. And so what we're trying to do, some units, like, they don't even need to do a command and staff because they got their dashboard up. Everything they need is right there. So think of all the slides that you used to have to prepare for a command and staff at whatever level. Most units aren't doing those anymore, because we can have the data that's linked again to IPSA or whatever system to have right in front of you. I don't need to have a meeting to do this. So I just gave hours and time back to the soldiers that they don't have to do. So I think that's what we're trying to do. And then like the boards and the ethical things, that's what we're trying to think. Okay, where does the human need to make a decision? And so far, we're testing it through the command assessment program. We think we got a good example of how to do that without saying, okay, a robot made the decision to promote somebody, when that's not going to be the case.
Giving the soldiers more time is always a winning solution.
Yeah.
Questions from the audience. Mike W. says, what is the priority of effort to stand up a comprehensive Army coaching program that teaches trained, certified, and credentials Army personnel? When will this funding be prioritized and made available?
You got me on that one, Michael W. I'd have to follow up on that. So talking about so we do coaching in the CAP program. We do have certified coaches that stay with the officer, soldier going through CAP to coach them on how they're doing. What we really want to do is look at the assessment. So right now, if you only do an assessment at CAP, so if you're going through battalion command, brigade command, a sergeant major, acquisition positions, medical, CSL position type stuff. That's one time in your career.
Right.
Why couldn't we do that early on? To your point about coaches, why don't we do that early on? A better assessment. Now we do OERs, we do coaching from leaders and stuff, but the comprehensive assessment is really done there. And if you've gone to specialized units or have applied for things like that, you've gone through those special assessments. And what we're finding is, wow, I've never seen this about me before.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get that, 10 years in your career. You want to get that across
Early
your
on.
career. So that's something we're looking at. How do we do that? But as far as coaching, I also think leaders are responsible for that. Leaders are responsible for development. You as a sergeant major, you develop people to do that. You train the trainers, so to speak. And we have to do that because sometimes some of the coaching is the great steps is being honest with people. People got to be able to receive honest feedback, right?
Yes, they do.
Whether
and you willing to give it.
Yeah, are you willing to give it and hold people accountable? Yeah. And we've got to do that. Got to do a better job across the Army on that for counseling and for development. And like we said, I know you really want to go to this job and do this thing, but what's best for you and actually best for the Army, your talent is best used over here.
Yeah.
And I think having those heart-to-heart conversations, the more we have, the more transparent we are, the better. But as far as funding for the coaching, that's something that I'm not tracking right now.
Got it.
Sorry, Mike.
Another question. How can the Army and AUSA create better relationships with industry leaders leading Skillbridge programs to activate their networks and communities to support the total force?
Yeah, I think it's just knowledge and education, especially for Skillbridge. That was designed for our first-term soldiers getting out and making sure they get a job. And not all of our first-term soldiers that are getting out are doing that, And so we have a campaign of trying to make sure, we talk about it in Transition Assistance Program, the TAP. But, we want more people going into that because it is a great program. I just talked to someone yesterday who's partnering with Ford. They're going to go work for Ford. And they got that opportunity through Skillsbridge. I think it's a great opportunity and it's a great way for our younger soldiers to transition out of the Army and have a landing place. And there's a lot of interest out there. They're talking about, DHS, and the Border Patrol, things like that they need people.
They're great programs.
They're great programs. And so that's easy to do, and they can do that through the transition. But I think it's also a connection to the community. And if corporations want to be a part of that, it's very easy to be a part of it. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. How does personal management fit in achieving the Army's mission of fighting and winning the nation's wars, or in the range of military operations the Army may be called on to conduct?
Yeah, I think we've got to look, again, we have to be flexible. We can't be one-trick ponies. We've got to be, you have to have specialties, we do, but we also have to be adaptive. Here I am at 33, 34 years in the Army, and they're making me the G-1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not the typical,
not the normal,
the personnelist. And so you've got to be able to adapt. You've got to be able to grow, learn. And as I like to say, you stay humble. If you're humble, you're willing to learn. You're willing to learn. You're going to grow. You're going to develop and get better. And on this leadership journey that we're on, we have to continue to do that. We can't say, "Oh, I've arrived. I'm done. Everybody, bring me coffee, bring me whatever." I have to work every day to get better. Our soldiers out there are counting on us
absolutely
to do that. I can't sit there and think I've got it all done. We talked to our team today, like, hey, we've got a weekend coming up. That paperwork these packets we're getting in from the field, those are going to be done before we go on the weekend. They're counting on us.
Absolutely.
And so up at the headquarters of the Department of the Army, we have to work harder. We shouldn't be.
People don't realize.
Yeah, we got to work harder. We should not work less. We should work harder and
absolutely.
Be more efficient and more effective because, I'm a big believer. Remember the 1/3, 2/3.
Oh yeah.
I want to give 2/3 of the time back to the soldiers. So if there's a piece of paper sitting in my headquarters or in our headquarters for months like that, we're not doing that. So we've got to do better at that as well.
Right person at the right time, the right job. All right. What does leadership look like for you as the G-1 compared to a traditional commander's role?
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, I got a team. I've got Sergeant Major Smoke Stevens, who's a great right arm. And if I didn't have people like him, that Mr. Wallace is also very helpful, and all of my directors. I got Hope Rampy at HRC.
Right.
I got Greg Johnson down at DMPM. I got Adam Smith. You remember Adam?
I remember all these guys
as the adjutant general at I mean, we've got some amazing people that make this happen. And you're sort of, I'm not a micromanager. I'm a big believer in mission command. Empower your subordinates to do the mission that they've been given, and let them do their job. And I find the more that I do that, these experts, they just need a little, steerage from me, and they're moving out. And
they'll come to you when they need something.
And they don't need a whole lot of motivation or morale boost or guidance. They actually do really well. So I think it's been different. Again, different world. The Army staff is a really connected team. There's a lot of teamwork going on in there. We all know each other, and that makes a difference when you're counting on each other, and it's no adversarial, type of relationships that are going on. And I think seeing that at this level is really good and inspiring to me, because you don't want to have to go to doom every day. You want to come into the office and I got a great team. We're going to accomplish whatever comes at us, and then also try to stay ahead of it. Because what we try to do is not get caught up in the day-to-day bayonet fight, which we often do. Sometimes it happens, but that prevents us from getting to all these things that we talked about.
Right.
Like, we have to invest in the future and accept some of this now. But that's what's been amazing. And leading an organization that's as big as we have, different from command, but again, it's all about the people that make the difference.
Always. Question from Shia F. It's a little long here. So, do you feel going forward the Army will prioritize either A, hiring and training internal experts in AI, or B, leveraging external consultants and contractors to fill these gaps?
Yes.
Or do you see them as equally important?
Yes. Equally important. I think we've got to do both, and we are doing both. And again, it's really, in some cases, if you're trying to look at something differently and you don't know what you're looking at, you need someone to look at it and say, oh, you know what you need? You need to do this. In some cases, we don't know how good we could implement some of the AI or some of the machine learning if we don't know. So I took a course in some artificial intelligence just to understand a little bit of what we can do in machine learning. And we've got the chat GPTs that really help some of the colleges and some of the industry that use that, and we're partnering with them to understand better how we can use this. I look at some of the people we brought in. We just directly commissioned 4 lieutenant colonels into this realm. They'll be in the reserves, but they are very high up in their organizations, and what they can do is they can come in and work on these projects and help us with that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we got the AI2C artificial intelligence pipeline that we're going through Carnegie Mellon. We develop these folks, put them on a mission set. So it'll take time to develop some of the internal stuff, but I think we're always looking to capitalize on the American citizenry to give us some of these innovations and ideas. I mean, we did it in World War II. We've done it over the years. We can still do it now. We've got to be able to tap into that resource and some of our expertise in the data fields across the commercial sector, and have ways that they can do it legally, because our soldiers deserve having that technology at the cutting edge of the battlefield. So I think they're both equally important. I think we'll be doing both of them for quite a while.
I agree. And we've been blessed to have great G1s, and I'm sitting by one right now. Leslie S. says, what things do you learn as an XO to Army senior leaders that has helped you as a leader today? That's a great question.
As an XO?
As an XO to a senior leader.
Yeah, I was never an XO to a senior leader, but I will tell you that seeing who we put in there, I think it's a great, and you've seen it as well, you get to see the insight of those strategic decisions that are making and the topics, right? I remember coming, I first met you, and I coming from Brigade Command going into OCLL, thinking like, oh, I get to tell Congress all the great things that we're doing and all this stuff, and they're like, yeah, all that stuff they know about, and these problems that they're dealing with 10 times much worse and more delicate, more disastrous if you handle negatively. It really brought my level of understanding of how the Army runs. I was told my whole career, stay away from the Pentagon.
Likewise.
And there's a lot of people that still say that, but
Right.
I tell you what, if you're going to go in there, you're going to learn how the
You'll
Army
learn.
really runs, right, wrong, and indifferent. You'll see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you'll be a better officer for it because you'll know how to navigate it as you did, and be able to understand how it works and how to get things done. I could not do what we're doing right now had I not seen that
I agree.
previously, of how, like I said, geez, why are we doing it this way? Well, now we're changing it. So you need to do that. And again, that's what I would encourage people to do.
I love that. It's great. What are the biggest challenges facing Army personnel management today?
Wow.
That's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big, there's a lot of challenges. So we have, I think we're doing really well in retention and recruiting, right?
Right.
But we have to revamp our retention targeting. So, before we give everybody a bonus for retention, now we're targeting, and probably not a good word to use, but we're focusing
on what you need,
where the bonus money goes,
Yeah.
on the places that need it, and not just everybody. As I mentioned earlier, the officer side of it, what should that look like? How do we retain officers? We have a lot of officers that get out after their first tour. And how do we retain more? Can we retain 10%, 15% more? Can we assess less because we over-assess a lot of times off? Because what happens is they start getting out at captains, and we're short captains, and we're short majors, lieutenant colonels. It all works that way. And so how can we retain more? And that's one of our bigger challenges. And we're listening to the exit surveys. We're trying to adjust some things to look at how do we keep, and not everybody's motivated by money. They want job fulfillment. They want to be working for good leaders.
Let's stay in one place a little longer.
And some of our junior leaders, that's really not as much as a discriminator as people think, because when you're young, you want
to go when you're young.
You want to go places. I know we did. So I think we're looking at things like that. That's a challenge. And then, so like we said, that's a challenge of okay, what do we want to reduce PCSs? Well, what does that mean? Well, that means people are going to stay longer, and maybe in places they don't want to.
Right.
So you gotta, again, like we said, it's all connected.
It's all.
And then, oh, by the way, we have like 288 locations that we man the force at. That's hard to do and limit PCSs. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at it. We're going to look at, like, how do we reduce TDY to schools and things like that? How can we do some, more virtual? And again, how can we reduce the cost of PCS? How do we can reduce the cost of TDY? All that stuff is on the table that we're looking at, because again, we can't just sit there and flip bills to do it the same way we always do it. And if there's a better way to do it.
Yeah. Let's get another question in from David M. As the G-1, what keeps you up at night?
I sleep good at night. I do. I sleep good at night. And we all should sleep good at night, knowing that we have one of the best, the best armies in the world. I'm not saying I don't have challenges and don't have problems or don't have issues that we got to work. My kids keep me up at night, and adult kids, I'm concerned about their future, right? I want them to be successful and prepared. But we're in good hands. When I lay down at night, I know there's leaders out there doing what they need to do.
Cool.
But I will tell you, Will, I'm available 24/7.
Oh, I know that.
I know if I'm not at the office, kinds of times. I know military don't telework, but really when I'm at home, I'm teleworking. And sometimes that at least in my position, I got to be available 24/7. Yeah. And people say, well, you got to be able to unplug. I tell you what, I'll be a little different on that. I'm challenging people like that. At my level, I can't unplug.
Yeah.
And I just went on leave for a week of Alaska. Do I have to get on the ball and chain, email, do some stuff? Absolutely. But I would rather, be able to do that and then not mess something up or screw something up. Now, I would tell you, I got plenty of great subordinates that can handle it while I'm gone.
Right.
But sometimes they want to hear what the G1 thinks or get my per se on that. And I've got to be able to provide that. And I'm not going to let, some action or something sacrifice because I'm doing it, doing something else. So I always try to be available for the Army. If I'm the G1 of the Army, it's a large, 1.2 million force that I've got to be available to. So I think that's, when we say what keeps you up at night, there's so many things that we do. I wouldn't sleep if I let it bother me. But I will tell you that I think making sure we're doing every duty day to its fullest, because we can't just let things sit in our inboxes.
I agree.
And get to it. Like
soldiers deserve
it's
more
in
than
and out
that.
of our inbox the same day type of thing, and that's what we've got to emulate across the force.
Love it.
Yeah.
Next question. What are some of your guiding principles as a G1? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, like I've got a lot of them, and I mentioned a couple of them earlier. Number one, you always have to look at the soldier is our customer. Number one. Everything we do is for the soldier. And so when I look at systems, processes, things that we're doing, great ideas, is it helping the soldier? Number one. If it doesn't get past question one, next issue. And then, as I said, okay, so we got a lot of HR professionals out there, AG Core folks out there, S1 shops, G1, J1, all that stuff. If it's not making their job easier next, then okay, what are we doing? But it's got to help the soldier. It's got to reduce the workload. And then I think we're good. So when we talk about innovation and moving forward, those are two things that I always look at. But the soldier is always first. It's not that we're not taking care of our civilians and our veterans and our families and all that stuff. But in the personnel world, we exist to provide an army to fight and win our nation's wars. And so if we're helping the soldier, victory. It's like with IPSA, it's a good system for what it does right now, but it's not where it needs to be. We need faster, we need to be more effective, we need to be more flexible and adaptable, and quicker, quite frankly, on some things to be able to change. Because that's what we know in our careers. Mm-hmm. That's what happens every day. Mm-hmm. We have a new policy, we have something else change. We got to be able to adapt and be flexible. So that's what we're trying to build into that system. And if we're not doing that, we're not helping the soldier, we're not helping the people running it. We have a great team of people running IPSA.
Oh yeah,
we have a great team of people, and but they're like you and me, and they're down there trying to do their best, and within the confines of the contract and all that stuff. But we've got to have some help on the other side of that to move it faster and get our money's worth. So I think that's really critical for the force. They want it, and we get the feedback from the force all the time.
Oh yeah,
we incorporate that.
The force talks. I love that.
It's vital. It's vital.
Yeah,
got to remain in touch with the force, otherwise you'll miss out.
Yeah, I agree. Next question is: what are some of the major initiatives you're working on? If you can talk about any of those today.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about a lot of them. Like we're talking about focused retention for officers and enlisted. That's one of the things we're looking at. Officer management system. How do we do the functional areas? How do we do career paths? How do we, do things like that? How do we reduce PCSs? How do we reduce, some of those things? How do we modernize our central board systems with AI and machine learning? How do we, fix the civilian hiring processes? These are all in my, job jar, and none of them are
small things.
These are big rocks. So all of those things. And in the end, we're doing the Army restructuring the Army. And so, okay, can we man the force properly and build the right soldiers, and have the right paths to be ready for that, for 2030 and beyond, or as I like to say, 2026 and beyond. We have to do that. So those are some of the big things we're doing, and we're always looking at getting better, working with the OSD counterparts, with MNRA, and the whole building, and all the sister services we get together, and we try to solve these things together. So
oh yeah,
It's been good.
Yeah, normally when you go to the Hill, you're going with the sister services too.
Yeah. So it's good, and they're interested in everything we're doing because their people, their constituents, they're interested. So we have an obligation to keep them informed, which we do, of our new initiatives and things that we're doing. Everything from ATI to new policies for personnel. So tries to keep them loaded up for information so they can fight for us as well.
What would you like to, at this stage of kind of our little time together, what would you like to leave with soldiers?
Well, I tell you, and I said this the other day, that I still think the American dream is available inside the Army. You can start, Dan Daly's story, starts with a shirt on his back and $20 in his pocket and becomes the SMA. There's a ton of stories like that out there. So I still think that the Army is one of the greatest places where you can start with nothing and end up with in a profession, in a career, get a college education, and get a start on life. Yeah. Whatever errors of youth that you used to that you had, right? You can get a great start, and it'll take care of make you a better person. And I think that's still critical. And I saw that in the parade on Saturday through the crowds and the people and the kids and everything out there watching and seeing it and being motivated and inspired. And so we can't ever forget that of those of us that still wear the cloth of our nation, is that remember why we're here. And we got to put ourselves second, and we put our nation first, because someone's got to answer the call. And, we don't make the decision to go fight. Our civilian leaders tell us when to do that, but we will be ready when they call. And if we're not, that'll be a shameful day. So that's what each one of us have to do, get better, whether it's PT, whether it's technical competence, learning, growing, being a better person, being a better leader. We got to do it every day.
Well, Lieutenant General Eifler, Brian, thank you. Will. Thank you for today's discussion. Yeah. Before we part, I want to inform our viewers of a few upcoming events. AUSA will host a coffee series featuring General Christopher T. Donahue, Commanding General, U.S. Army, Europe, Africa, and that'll be on 25 June. AUSA's inaugural Land Euro Symposium will be 16 to 17 July in Wiesbaden, Germany. We will host an Army Contracting and Procurement Hot Topic on 22 July at AUSA's headquarters. And of course, no one forget AUSA's annual meeting. It will be on 13 through 15 October in Washington, D.C. I hope you can join us for an upcoming webinar or event. For more information about any of these events or to register, please visit our website at ausa.org. And finally, we thank all of you who support us with your membership. Membership matters. You help us support the Army. Thank you again for attending, and have a great Army Day. Hoorah!